their classes near San Antonio, Texas. They are a USPPA certified flight school as well as an Aviator PPG Alliance partner. One Up Adventures and ParamotorProps.com. They love to share their passion for paramotoring and adventure. They also supply the world's best carbon fiber propellers to U.S. paramotor pilots at extremely competitive prices and with fast and free shipping. Wisconsin Flight Sports. It's their goal to provide a safe, affordable, fun, and accessible training program to individuals interested in entering powered paragliding. Fly PPG discovered powered paragliding, exclusive Midwest importer and distributor of adventure paramotors, trikes, and wings. All of their training is done on their private, highly manicured airfield located on a 45-acre farm. Fly My PPG. They are a USPPA certified Aviator PPG Alliance school offering personalized paramotor training, customized motors, and paragliders, service and repairs. ParaOrange.com. ParaOrange brings you quality products handmade in the U.S. for paramotoring and paragliding sports. On their website, click e-rebate and follow directions. Use promo code OPN for a 10% discount on all items. Wicked Wings logo. Customize your wing with a Wicked Wing logo today. Email Craig Taylor for more information. Make sure you visit Our Paramotor Nation at www.ourparamotornation.com. See all upcoming episodes, events, and so much more information. Check out our previous episodes, visit our store, and get some of our gear. Thank you for joining Our Paramotor Nation. And now it's time to begin the show.
What is up, all you cool cats and kittens out there? This is David Wolfe. Welcome to Our Paramotor Nation. Guys, I am so sorry for any delays in the show. We had a little technical difficulties. Hopefully started sort of on time. I don't know. But we've got another great show for you tonight. I don't know if anybody saw the Tiger King. I didn't get a chance to see it. It's Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. Let's go ahead and start off with talking about not our guest yet, not Chris Holbert yet, but our guest or our co-host. Let's start with trike flyer, Dave Ruff. Dave Ruff, sir, are you there?
Hey guys, what is going on? How you doing, Dave?
I get before the show. You know how that is. Dave, you've had a busy day though, haven't you?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, usually the pre-shows are pretty informative. This one was pretty intense. You handled it well, man. You handled it good.
I don't think so. I'm gonna have a sip of this. I'd like to say there's something stronger than hot tea in here, but there's not. Now, Dave,
we're gonna work that out.
You've been a stick bow archer builder. You're a trike flyer. You're a foot launcher, but there's something else, a new hobby of yours, isn't there?
Yeah. So video will be dropped on the Trike Flyer channel tomorrow morning. You guys will see Dave the Beekeeper.
You can see Dave the Beekeeper right here.
Lord.
There's a picture of Dave the Beekeeper. Look at how good you look in your beekeeper suit there. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, I actually flew my trike just the other day, and I put some of the beekeeping stuff from yesterday and from this morning into that video. So, guys, make sure you're checking that out if you have any interest.
How about Rick Davies, PPG Gorilla? I believe he's with us as well. Rick? Hey, there you are.
What's up, everybody? Happy Easter. How you guys doing?
Oh my gosh, man, I couldn't be better. And you're joined by Kimberly Davies.
I have my associate, my helper, Kimberly Davies, working the chat for me.
That is awesome.
Hi,
everybody.
Hey, you. So you've had some busy things going on in your life recently, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I've been working on a new video and big things coming. I don't know how much I want to give up.
Now, I'm glad Kimberly's here, too. I didn't know you guys were Scottish. Are you guys Scottish? Maybe you can explain this little picture.
I knew this was coming.
What's that about?
I don't see it.
You don't see the picture there?
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, holy Christ.
Yeah. I've been quarantined for a week. So, we start playing dress up and.
Is that Kimberly's skirt or is that someone else?
Thanks for sharing that.
No,
That's my kilt.
It's completely not mine. It's one of his costumes. Not mine. I'm not that big.
You know who does wear a skirt every once in a while is Kate Bowen. Kate, are you there?
I'm here. Hello and happy Easter, everybody.
How are you doing, Kate?
I'm super excited. So the rest of, not that this is Paramotor related at all, the rest of my truck parts finally came in. I've been waiting on them for weeks.
Your
And
what
so
part?
my truck parts for my 250. I'm excited. That's my next project.
I know besides that, you've been busy also, haven't you?
I have been. We're still working. We're still operating. It's been a little
What
crazy.
most people don't know about Kate Bowen is that she is a superhero. Maybe you've seen this picture right here. Kate, what the hell is going on?
Oh no. Where's my what?
What's going on in this picture right here?
All right, so I'm the first person to make the only superhero that doesn't fly.
Yeah, there you go.
I frequently fly in my Deadpool onesie.
Cool, that Kate, and you're wearing 2 helmets, so that must have been 2 of your victims, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so. Thanks a lot for throwing that one out there.
Why you guys would possibly think that it's okay to send me pictures throughout the week? Don't you guys?
Yeah, well, you know.
I was wondering about that.
I do have that other picture of me, but I'm not going to use that as incriminating evidence against myself. The one where I went to the supermarket looking just crazy. But we also have Todd Scandard is back with us. Resurgence PPG. I've got my Resurgence cup right here with some tea in it. And if Todd gets out of hand, I'll just stand up and do one of these. So there we go. Hey, Todd, what's up, buddy?
What's happening? Happy Easter to you as well.
Oh my gosh, happy Easter, buddy. I'm so glad you're here with us. This is a special day. It's Easter. For those of you that do celebrate Easter, happy Easter to you. And, speaking of the Easter bunny, Chris Holbert is here as well. Chris Holbert, how you doing? That had nothing to do with the
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
Good. Happy Easter, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Before we do start talking with Chris, I did want to make mention of a very special person that's part of the family of our Paramotor Nation, a former guest. He was actually a guest the same day that Dave was a guest on our show. That's Michael Holliday. And you may have seen some posts that Michael had up in the last 2 days. For those of you who don't know, Michael is the person that runs Endless Foot Drag. And in addition to that, Michael's a very wonderful man. He's a teacher. He was foot launching about 1.5 years ago, and Michael has cancer. He got cancer, basically almost paralyzed him from the waist down. He battled it, and it's a special day that it is Easter because he does give all the glory to God and to Jesus Christ, his Savior. And Michael, when he was on our show, swore to us that one day, and I think he thought it would be sooner, but one day he would be foot launching. And lo and behold, yesterday, he was able to make his first foot launching flight since this all happened. So Michael, we love you. Congratulations. We're so excited for you, man. What a blessing. That is absolutely amazing. So there you go. If you were on the show last week, your name got put into a drawing. Today, our drawing is for 2 prop covers from one of our sponsors that you just heard about, Para Orange. Thank you, Chris and Larry DeChico, for these. We'll be giving those out later in the evening. Whew, I went from completely stressed to completely more stressed. I'm out of breath. So thank you for my co-host who tried to keep me in check. I appreciate that, guys. So we have Chris Holbert. Hey, buddy. So a little background on Chris. Chris used to race motorcycles, correct?
Correct. I did race motorcycles.
Well, and I want people to get to know who Chris is. You may have seen Chris. Some people confuse him with a guy who's on another show on Thursday nights, but he is completely different from Sean Nasker. Well, they're both great guys, but Chris, I've had the privilege to get to know a little bit better here in the last month or so. Chris flies in the areas right around where we do here in Cincinnati. Chris is a teacher. He's been doing this. He flies, pretty regularly with Matt Minyard, don't you?
Whenever I can. I wouldn't call it regularly, but a few times a year, whenever possible, for sure.
And Chris Santa Croce, you've trained under him.
Yeah, I trained under him. That's I'm lucky to call those guys my buddies. We fly whenever possible. I try to go to Utah twice a year. I'm actually supposed to be there like this week, but obviously it didn't happen.
Yeah, I know that damn virus. We have, I guess, been more in contact with each other. Chris has been taking my training to another level. I'm very excited to say that Chris, well, I guess you sort of tested me, didn't you?
Yeah, we've been putting you to the test for a little while now.
So I've had to buy him a couple dinners, but after that, he's passed me for my PPG2 rating. So I'm very excited about that. So thank you, Chris, for all your help with that. Yeah, and I've talked about this before about getting out and not just having one instructor or two instructors, get as many instructors as you can so you can learn different things from different people, different styles, different techniques. And Chris has certainly been teaching me some things that I didn't know, and making my spot landings a little bit closer. Although I did face plant because I did try to hit a spot with a toe and forgot to land.
Yeah.
System's running over. You're right. So, but let's go back just so people get to know you a little bit better. Tell us about how you got into the sport, going from motorcycle racing and why you decided to go into powered paragliding.
Yeah, so it started with, I guess we could start with road racing was kind of my passion. It was the thing I loved to do the most. That's where I had the most fun, you know. So I did that for a while. I was a motorcycle instructor at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where we, you know, taught people how to run a race line and how to become racers. Did that for about 5 or 6 years and decided I needed a break from racing. Took a small break and started racing RC cars, and then that led to RC airplanes, and then eventually decided to get a private pilot's license. Got a private pilot's license, flew around a small light sport aircraft for about a year,
Oh, wait a
a
minute,
year and a half.
right there, because from what my understanding is that you started flying this, you got your private pilot's license, and then you flew for about what 100 hours, and then so that's pretty much it for you.
Yeah, maybe 150 or so before I don't know, it didn't really lose its excitement, but it became more of a, you know, what's your heading, what's your altitude, do you need to make a radio call kind of thing versus just out there for fun. And I was honestly on the path of like, I want to go faster and higher. And I met a guy at the airport who basically turned me on to Paramotor and said, you know, the shortcut really is just to go slow and low, and that's where you're going to have the most fun. And he had a ton of worldly experience flying around, you know, in multiple aircrafts, and said, this is the most fun I've ever had. Give it a try. You know, I went for it, and I was hooked. I was addicted. Coming from road racing, you know, it kind of was like the sport bike or the motorbike of the sky, where you could actually go places on it and, you know, rip around and go through the fields low, versus being in the airplane where it's, you know, a minimum of 500 feet in a sparsely populated area, and you don't really get to interact with the ground as much. So that aspect of it, immediately I was like, yeah, this is my thing, and I've been hooked ever since.
What was your plan when you were getting your private pilot's license? Were you thinking that was going to become a career path for you? Were you thinking commercial? Were you thinking I'll just do small planes, and or is this just for fun?
Yeah, so actually, I guess I skipped part of the story. Was I went to the glider port that's near us, the Caesars Creek glider port, and I started riding in the sailplanes. A friend of mine had a sailplane license, so I would go up, you know, get towed behind the airplane, box the prop wash, and then fly around, try to catch thermals, and then come back down to the ground. He wouldn't let me land it, but, you know, he'd let me do the rest of the flight. So that's what led me to get a small aircraft that I did get, because it was it's called a Falcon XP light sport aircraft that's capable of thermaling. So I had an engine so I could fly up to the clouds, you know, thermal around whatever, and then come back down. That was my main plan, was just to kind of thermal around town and go places without using the engine as much as possible. So I guess that was my game plan. And then, like I said, it kind of turned into not as just relaxing as I thought it would be, you know.
It's interesting because I know you really love the adrenaline rush. You're a thrill seeker, and to go from racing motorcycles to paramotoring, it seems like it would be less of a rush. You feel the opposite?
Yeah, well, the thing with paramotor is I can impose whatever level of risk that I want on myself only. You know, there's nobody out there with me that I'm bumping up against, or, you know, deciding I'm going to push it a little further in this corner, despite, you know, how the outcome may interfere with what this guy's got going on today. So that aspect of it, it just drew me into, you know, buzz the ground low over the water if you want to and scare yourself, and, you know, be aware that you're obviously ramping up, you know, what could potentially happen to you if you're doing that kind of flying. But then from there to all the way up to, you know, as high as you want to go, basically, and relax and just look at the earth from a different perspective. So anything in between there, there's just so many different possibilities that I was like, man, this is the thing for me. And then honestly, I saw a video that's Alex Matias slalom racing with a sport bike on the racetrack. And I was like, oh, holy shit, this is a thing. We can like race these things in the sky around slalom, you know, around pylons. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So
I'm sorry,
I knew,
Chris.
you know, that was far off from where I was, but that was a goal.
There's definitely no swearing on the show. I apologize. I should have told you that. I'm just kidding with you. I'm just joking. You can say whatever the hell you want.
Wait. We got the change jar. Just go ahead and donate.
Flip me some quarters.
Hey, do you think you are a risky pilot?
No. I fly risky on occasion. Some days I'm not as savvy as I would like to be, but I definitely try to be as savvy as possible and keep myself, you know, right side up when I'm close to the ground.
Yeah, I know. I think watching you're a very talented pilot, and you don't do anything that you haven't practiced or that you're not comfortable with. Where someone else might be like, "Whoa, that's crazy! That's insane!" But you're comfortable with it, and you've practiced it, and you can see that in your skill set. So, and I apologize if I put you a little bit on the spot. And again, I'm not going to ask you any questions to make you feel uncomfortable. What you do, everything that I've seen, it's kind of cool because I don't get to really interview people that I've seen as often as I've seen you fly. So I know everything that you do is very, very safe. And I'm excited to watch you, and I'm more excited to learn more and more from you. Midday flying. Your comfort level with midday flying, where some people say, don't do any thermaling, don't do any midday flying. Now, on the flip side of coin, you've got someone like Kyle O'Glee. And as everybody knows, Dave Ruff flies with Kyle O'Glee, and they like to do midday flying. Tell us about when you became comfortable with midday flying and how often you do it.
Comfortable with it was probably a couple of years in for sure. You know, all you ever hear is don't go fly in the middle of the day. Obviously, you know, that's the big thing we all try to avoid. So, but I tend to take smaller steps and progress slowly and, you know, push it up to what I think my boundary is at that particular moment, and maybe a little further from time to time. So it took me a little while, and I started off slow. You know, I started with little gust factors, just getting out and catching small bumps and feeling, you know, not enough lift to actually stay up without the engine, but enough to feel what it's like to get bumped around. And then, you know, baby steps from there until eventually I had just the right day where I did actually catch some lift and turn the engine off and floated around for, you know, half an hour. And I was hooked. And then I made baby steps and decided, you know, obviously get some more training and be better at this before you know, go for the big rock and thermal days or anything like that. I still don't fly in what I would consider big rock and thermally air. Just I like it to be just a little more than enough to keep me up there without using the engine.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit more in a few minutes about your training, but since we're talking about flying midday and thermals, do you teach anybody to fly midday and thermals?
No, I don't. You know, I suggest paragliding training for that. Really is where you're going to get the proper skills to go up and be able to thermal and, you know, put yourself in certain situations and know what else that you're going to have, as well as, you know, obviously a maneuvers clinic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you're flying around for, I think, approximately 2 years before you started. You had a buddy that wanted to learn how to fly. Is that correct?
Yeah. Basically, I started off just converting my race buddies, you know, guys that were still out there racing at the racetrack, and they're like, where are you at? Prior students that I had at the racetrack, they're like, dude, what are you doing now that you're not at the racetrack all the time? So I was like, there's this thing, it's called Paramotor, you know, you should probably try it. It's safer than what we used to do. It's more fun. And that right there, they're like, yeah, you're lying to me. Like, there's no way that's even possible, until some of them actually tried it. You know, one guy in particular decided he was going to be the first one. And, you know, taught him what I knew at the time, and it was enough to get him up and flying around. And he kind of progressed on his own and with me from there.
When did you decide I want to do this full time?
It was after I'd been training just loosely for a couple years, not very many people, just a handful here and there. And it just kind of started growing, and people were messaging and calling me like, hey, you taught my friend. My friend says I should come to you to learn paramotor. So, and then I decided it was something that I should just get better at and see how well I could instruct people, you know. What really set me off, I think, was meeting other people that paramotored that weren't, I don't know how to phrase it. They didn't seem like they were the best paramotor pilot they could be after leaving training. And I was like, man, there's some other things that like you should probably know before you know, don't you want to leave the field? Don't you want to like go somewhere with this awesome thing that we have that you can fly places? And they're like, yeah, dude, I totally want to leave here, but I'm not good at that. I don't know like how to navigate or how to spot land or these other things that would totally be crucial if you had a situation or, you know, something like that. So I was like, man, people just need better training, and people around here need better training. So I started just going to get more training myself. Was the first step. It was like, how can I be a better instructor and help these people to, you know, be at a better level when they leave my training.
So who did you, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rick.
Chris, did you find it? I mean, I found it hard to believe that people went through training and never had any training about airspace or about navigation or any of those kind of things that like you really should know, right?
Sure. And coming from a general aviation background, I mean, you know, you learn a lot of stuff. You learn to stall the aircraft. You learn, you know, obviously the navigation, all those things. And it's like, we're operating a motor vehicle in the sky, call it whatever you want. We're up there flying around with other people. We're trying to go places and do things. There's a certain level of skill that you should have before you just strap one on, take off running into the sky and say, I'm going that way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Who were your, I know you credit 2 people specifically on your website for your training. Anybody else? You can talk about those 2 people, one being Matt and one being Chris, but is there anybody else that you credit with your training?
Yeah, Scott and Steve at Midwest Parajet. You know, Scott Baxter, Steve Reed. Those are guys that I met a few years ago for the first time in real life, you know, at Salton Sea. And they've always taken great care of me, helped me out with all the Parajet stuff. They're my distributor this year. So, yeah, those guys are awesome. They helped me out. We did a tandem clinic with those guys. Just awesome group of instructors that I met there. Just Josh Bowden, Justin Fox, to name a couple. Yeah, we had a total blast with those guys. And those guys are great tandem instructors as well.
So go on. How did you meet Matt and Chris, and when did they come into your lives as far as being an integral part of, I guess, your training style and everything that you do?
Yeah, so initially, I guess, well, I've been working with Chris for a long time as far as he's been my dealer for the gym gliders and stuff like that. When I was first getting started, the guy that kind of got me into the sport knew Chris and was like, if you ever get the chance, this is the guy you need to talk to. You know, you need to try and get your stuff from him. He'll help you out. He's a great guy. And, you know, obviously I didn't understand the extent to what he was talking about at the time. I just thought he was some cool guy in paramotor I needed to know. But then eventually, you know, got to know him, and he was the first guy to actually reach out and be like, hey, we're going to help you out if you need stuff. So he kind of put me on that way. And then when I started investigating and wanting to do more with slalom is when obviously I was like, dude, the only person I know around here that does anything like that is Matt Minyard. So I've been messaging him for a while, like, dude, are you going to get a slalom thing together? Like, are you going to do a course? Are you going to teach people how to do this? What's up? And he was like, yeah, I'm trying. We're going to figure it out. And eventually I was like, dude, like the weather looks awesome down there next week. What are you doing next weekend? And he was like, it does look great. If you want to come fly, come on with it. So jumped in the van, drove down there, you know, with the intention of doing some slalom training. And we hung out for a few days, had a blast, you know, did some slalom training. And just the tip of the iceberg, again, just kind of getting familiar with the techniques and, you know, the different ways you fly the glider and different configurations for slalom. And then he was a guy who was kind of one-man band, if you will. You know, he was doing training on his own, just him, running the whole operation. And I was like, dude, I need to go see how he's doing things, you know, just get an idea of what might help me to be better again. So
Have you done any competitions yet, like Matt, for slalom?
no, but I think it's coming to the US soon, hopefully. So when it does, it'll be a little more accessible, obviously, than traveling the world. And like anything else, if you want to be competitive, you're gonna have to travel. But that's definitely on the goal list for sure.
So because he's the only game in town in our country, as far as I know, that's training that, is there a potential that Southwestern Ohio will have a training facility for slalom?
I have no idea, honestly.
Referring to you, not another.
It would be awesome to be something that we could add, but the logistics of it are kind of tricky to get figured out.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Resurgence PPG. Actually, no, we're going to hold off on Resurgence PPG for a second. Let's talk about how you decide. I'm sorry, Todd.
It's okay. I understand.
Travis Burns paid me off. Anyways,
Because
there you go. Kate's got the trump card right there. Shut up, Travis. All right. So where did the name? Oh, that's cute, Dave. Where did you come up with Predator as the name of your training facility?
So when I raced motorcycles, one of the guys that was in our crew that we raced with, he referred to me as the Predator, because at the time I had the helmet on and the dreads hung out of the helmet, and I would literally just chase people around. And a couple races in particular, down in North Carolina one weekend, I just raced behind the guys for almost the entire race until the last lap. And then I kind of had figured out, you know, the weak spots and where I could go a little faster. So instead of I didn't like to be out front being chased, basically. So I would kind of lay in wait and stalk and then make my move at the end. So that earned me the name Predator when I raced. And then eventually when I put on the Predator or the Paramotor, all the guys that I raced with started training with me and are like, dude, now it's Predator Paramotor. And I was like, yeah, it totally makes sense.
That's cool. Now I gotta say this. When I was at the when we were at the fly-in just a couple of weeks ago, there's two T-shirts that or two brandings that I noticed stuck out more than any others. The second most popular one, and I think Kate was actually wearing one, was a Tri-State Skywalker, which of course is our friend Brandon McLeod, part of the Tri-State Skywalkers. That's, you know, local, and it's great to see that because Brandon put out T-shirts and sweatshirts to raise money for Resurgence PPG. But probably the most popular name out there was Predator Paramotor shirts. And shame on all of us for not wearing our Predator shirts tonight. We all have them. I believe we all have them. And there we go. Todd Scandrett saves the day.
I've been wearing mine. I've been wearing mine flying.
Yeah, we've seen it in your videos too.
They're dirty right now. They're in a dirty clothes.
I did the laundry.
So look at, he muted her right away. So yeah. So the T-shirts are really cool. There's one T-shirt that just says Paramotor, and you don't even notice, but there is a little Predator logo man standing in the middle. I actually love the ones with the full logo. That's one of my favorite one. My kids have a couple. Thank you, Chris. If you go onto the Predator Paramotor website, they're great, and they're really, you should raise the prices. They're really inexpensive. So definitely go on there. Hook Chris up, show some support for him. They're great T-shirts to have. So really appreciate them. So you've been
Chris tracked me down at Palm Bay. He's like, I have these 2XL T-shirts and nobody wants them. Here, I got them. Just take them. I'm like,
nobody else fits in them.
I'll sport. Yeah, nobody else wears them.
You gotta show the big guys love too, you know.
Yeah, those days are coming to an end.
I want to know what his shirt says. Shut
up. It says "Shut up, Todd."
Shut up, Todd.
Or shut up, Travis.
Yeah, shut up, Travis. Yeah.
Yes. So Chris
I'll tell you about it later. It's a long story.
Okay.
Chris has been supporting Resurgence PPG for a while. I believe, Chris, and tell me if this is wrong, that for every student you train, a donation is made to Resurgence. Isn't that correct? If it's not, I'm gonna look like an idiot for saying that.
No, that's what we're doing.
Awesome.
We actually split it between Resurgence PPG and Project Airtime now.
Right. All right. So tell us about your involvement with both of those, please.
So Project Airtime is, it's Chris's thing, but him and Matt got me in on it, and I just try to participate whenever possible. First time I went to Utah for my instructor training with Chris, I did the Project Airtime stuff as well on the side there, and it's life-changing for the people who get to participate in it, and I think it's life-changing for the people, just everyone who takes part in it, who get to like me and Matt and everyone else who get to do it for the people that get to come out and fly with us. So obviously, go ahead.
Was there just someone? I thought I saw a picture, but I missed it totally. If it happened at the fly-in, at the Palm Bay fly-in, did you just have a Project Airtime? What do you call it?
Yeah,
gentlemen.
Recipient, whatever you want to call it. Basically, we snuck in early morning there. It was a quadriplegic guy named Joe, I believe. I hope I don't have that wrong, but yeah, Joe came out. And Matt gave him an awesome tandem ride, and just an amazing experience. From what he said afterwards, he enjoyed every bit of it, from beginning to end. Super comfortable, loved it, and that's kind of what it's all about, taking people who otherwise couldn't enjoy a flying experience, and get them up there and change their perspective a little bit.
Awesome. Todd Scandrett, how'd you meet Chris Holbert?
So I knew about him a little bit, but we actually didn't actually meet face to face and spend quality time together until down at the Swanee fly-in this past year. And so, there had been some information in passing and, some communications and whatnot, but never really got to sit down and meet him until we were at the Swanee fly-in. And Chris Santa Croce was there, and so Chris Holbert is there with Santa Croce, and I was able to really sit down, and we spent some time talking about the mission of Resurgence and the mission of Project Airtime. And a lot of people don't realize that my first experience with paramotoring was through Matt Minyard, and I got a flight from Project Airtime at Beach Blast in 2017. And it was as I was working through the idea of starting Resurgence, I was directed to Chris Santa Croce. And, I go and meet Chris, and, at first he was kind of standoffish, like, hey, I kind of do that same thing. Are you trying to move in on my turf kind of deal? And the more we talked, the more we realized that we have very paralleled goals and missions, and that it's not me versus them or them versus Resurgence or anything. We very much, from day one, have always wanted to work together, because even though our missions are slightly different, we have very, very similar goals. And so I did a tandem with Matt Minyard. My son did one with Chris Santa Croce down at Beach Blast. And, from that, Resurgence was born. And we fast forward to me getting to sit down with, Chris Holbert at the Swanee fly-in. And, as people always ask me, how do you select the schools and how do you select the instructors where you will actually send a student? And the big thing is when I meet the instructors, one of the keys is, through that basically, an informal interview process, is I get to know them. You can really pick out, is their heart in the right place? And Chris is one of those guys that immediately, his heart is in the right place about this, because what he said earlier, about how his involvement with Project Airtime, he gets a lot out of it. And that's what means so much to me, because that's why I'm involved with Resurgence, man. I get so much out of it by seeing these candidates go through their training. And I knew right then, as Chris and I were having that conversation, that we were going to sponsor a candidate with him, and it was going to be soon. And so, I'm so happy that we have a candidate identified. The thing that's awesome is that candidate is pretty local to you and Chris. And so it's going to be, hopefully it'll be an ongoing, enduring relationship with that candidate. We won't have to send him halfway across the country to train. he'll be right there. And so I'm super excited about it, you know, and, you know, this will be the first project that Resurgence has done where we have a direct connection back to Project Airtime. And I think that's so important for people to realize that, you know, it's about growing both of these organizations simultaneously and our influence and our impact, because we are able to change lives.
That's awesome. I want to tell you this, Todd. After seeing Chris for the last several weeks interacting with his students and how his students interact with him, it's not just a student instructor relationship. There's a brotherhood that you can easily see being formed there. And to have this person be local, to know that this person will always be able to send Chris a message, hey, you flying tonight? Yep, here we are. We're going to this field. We're going to Bowman. We're going to Red Stewart, wherever it might be. He's gonna be a part of a brotherhood right here locally, and that's
Yep.
I think the heart of what you want with Resurgence PPG.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is. And that's why I was so excited, you know, when we were able to identify a candidate. And, you know, Chris jumped on board immediately. I've been excited about it. And now we just need to wait for the current travel restrictions and whatnot to pass us by. And we're going to make it happen. And, you know, hopefully it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
There's-
Thanks, guys, for all the kind words. Seriously.
Oh gosh, it's well deserved. It's well deserved. Kimberly, I want to answer your question about this T-shirt that I'm wearing. You know, there's a lot of people that have hearts of gold that are sitting right here on the show. If anybody has watched this show for a while, you know how much we try to do and raise awareness and raise money for Resurgence PPG, because we believe in the mission. And right from day one, that was what we wanted to do, was to help Todd and his mission with Resurgence PPG. This shirt, when I bought it, was to raise money for Resurgence PPG. It wasn't just a slap in the face or a joke. It was to raise money, and that's what we did that night. Rick Davies does the poker run, and he raised money. Dave Trike Flyer there, Ruff is he's got a banner that he's been putting together that says "Our Paramotor Nation." We started this at the Swanee Fly-In, where we're having people sign it, and then at the end, sometime soon, the plan was to go ahead at one of these fly-ins, and when we have it all signed by everybody, to go ahead and raffle it off. He's got a heart of gold. And Kate, you know, just knowing her from the little time in the last couple of months, she's got a heart of gold, and there's nothing that these people wouldn't do to help other people out. And Resurgence, Project Airtime, two great organizations there that will gladly and happily support.
But it's good to, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, it's good to know what that means.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because it started out my days down training at Aviator PPG, and it was Kyle Mooney that started yelling "Shut up, Todd" to me, and then all of a sudden Chris Garrison picked up on it. And at the time, Chris Garrison was like brand new to Aviator, and so he had just gotten to the organization, and he started saying "Shut up, Todd," and at that point it just kind of exploded. And so I now take it as a term of endearment. It's those people that love me enough to feel comfortable to tell me to shut up. It means something.
Shut up,
Hey,
Todd.
Dave, I got this. Hey, Todd, shut up.
Shut up. No,
Thanks, Trike Flyer.
Trike Flyer, you got to interrupt him when you say it. You can't wait till he's finished talking. You have to just cut him off.
Well, I've got to do this whole "I've got a heart of gold" thing that Dave just said. I wanted up here to be polite or something. Shut up, Todd.
Telling Todd to shut up.
Shut up, Kate.
There you go. All right. So there's a question here from Jim CR120 for you, Chris, and it's a good lead into your training. The whole premise of the show, by the way, was what the heck was it? I forgot. It's been so long since we talked about it. Making good decisions. And we're going to get to that as well. But the question is how long is your training? How much does it cost? Can someone who wants to know more see an outline of the training covered? So why don't you go ahead and answer those questions right there first, and then we'll talk about how you do training step by step. Go ahead.
So roughly, the training is $2,500. It lasts on average 10 days, but that's not really a thing. You know, we train you until you are demonstrating awesome skills and you're super comfortable and you're basically like dude, I'm taking my stuff and I'm going flying, whether it's here or somewhere else. But yeah, so we look at it as when you develop that level of skill, then you're free to, you know, obviously go fly on your own. But there's no set number of days on it. And we like to get the first 4 to 5 days in whenever possible in a row, just to build that, you know, consistency, muscle memory, basic skills, so that hopefully when you come back, and it's hopefully soon, you know, you don't have to kind of start from scratch again. So, and then the convenience of it is if you're semi-local, you can just keep coming back until, you know, you're like 100% sure that you're ready to go fly your own equipment, and, you know, obviously pick out your site and know whether or not it's a good site to fly, and all the stuff that comes with being, you know, a good PPG 2-level pilot.
I was pleasantly surprised when I saw how good your students were flying last week. I'm going to tell a story, and I'm shame on me, I forget his name, but I actually got to see, my son and I were out with you in Blanchester that night, and he made his first flight. Taller, I forget his name.
Matt, that's our guy, Matt Green.
Right. So Matt and you had an interesting ending to your night the other night when I flew with you at Red Stewart. Would you like to share with that, everybody? Because I was just amazed that he was doing what he did with you as you guys came into land at the end of the night.
You mean when we were kind of flying around each other up high?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So Matt, just a little background on Matt. Matt is a champion level wingsuit skydiver guy. You know, he's not like the average student that we get. So he's obviously progressed through training pretty quickly. And he knows how to fly a canopy, just all canopies. He's a tandem instructor. He's a wingsuit instructor. You know, he's been all around the world flying wingsuit base jump kind of guy. So he's got a natural talent and skill that you got to kind of preface the story with. So again, obviously he progressed through training pretty quickly. He feels more comfortable going a little faster than slower. And that was his hurdle, was the glider is way behind me and it feels really weird when it's like this in skydiving. That's bad. So we kind of had to, you know, transform the way he thought about it and get him more comfortable. But as soon as he did, then we downsized him a glider a little bit to something a little closer to what he would actually fly once he leaves training. And yeah, the guy's just super awesome. But yeah, we got up high, we were flying around, and we went to 3,500 feet, turned the engines off completely, and flew up next to each other, close enough to talk. We were just chatting back and forth. You know, he's obviously, this is amazing. I've never done, like, you know, this kind of flying, being able to go up and down, and we're just hooting and hollering. And then we end up kind of starting to pass each other from different directions. And I yell out at him, you know, turn, turn. So we both kind of started turning. And it was by no means like an awesome synchronized spiral, but it was both of us turning 360s, you know, equidistant from each other, lined up really nicely and chatting back and forth while we dumped altitude for, I don't know, 1,000 feet or more. Spot landed.
Chris, in the Facebook groups, I hear a lot of people talking about guys that are skydivers and they have some experience under canopy. Does that transitions pretty well?
It does and it doesn't. We find that a lot of times skydiver guys are really herky-jerky, like guys that swing hammers. Yeah. They like to do this motion a lot. So that was his big thing that we had to overcome. We took him tandem a few times. First time we handed him the controls, say, give me a turn, you know, it was boom, and he hucked it in pretty deep to where I took control for the exit of it. It was like, I don't think you're going to be ready for what you just set us up for. So once we kind of got him to be a little more finesse, you know, and a little less hammer time, after that, yeah, he progressed pretty quickly. That tends to be the big hurdle for skydivers.
I hear that a lot on the Facebook groups. Yeah, I've got so many hours under canopy skydiving, you know, I can do this. I wondered how that crosses over.
Sometimes it translates well, other times not. Again, it's going to be like everyone's different, you know. Everyone has a different personality and a different skill level. Just because you skydive, and you've skydived a bunch, you know, is different from a guy who gives tandem rides on a tandem wing. He flies, you know, he told me he has 7 different gliders that are all different from each other that he flies. So, you know.
People ask me how aviation, how flying an airplane has transitioned over to paramotor. I said, well, it does, but it in the airspace and the navigation and things like that. But as far as flying, it really doesn't.
All right, and airspeed, right? Airspeed's always the number one thing that you can.
It's important, yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're flying, you have to fly with airspeed.
That's right. Yep. Very good point.
Well, that would explain why I saw you guys laughing and giggling as you were spiraling down, because I thought, oh my God, he's amazing. That quick he learned. That's awesome.
He's good. The guy's good. But I mean, we try to make the guys good. We try to make them awesome, give them a super high level of confidence. We want them to nail all of their launches, and not have it be a struggle for the first year, because that's what puts pilots up. They think, man, I watched all these videos on YouTube. This has got to be so easy. Look, they just pull the glider up and run into the air. And then they get out there in the field and they're like, dude, this is really difficult to actually perfect. And when you can do it right, 9 times out of 10, that's what it's all about. So
how have you in this last month been executing social distancing?
And so our classes are on hold as of now. Well, they've been on hold, but on hold for this month. What we're doing is we're sending out information, links for people to click on and study different particular topics and subjects, getting them familiar with the syllabus, basically just trying to do everything that we can do from a distance with each other. The end of last month's class, we were kind of practicing the social distancing at the end. A lot of the guys had their own equipment, but for the ones who didn't, we would set the equipment out and have them come and get it. And they were all finally at that level where they could do their own thing and just get geared up and go execute the plan of the day, whatever, particular thing they were working on. So that's kind of been our game plan. And then hopefully we'll be back to life as normal soon enough. But until then, it's everything at a distance. It's not as hands-on and touchy-feely as it once was.
Okay. Let's go back to the topic of the show, which was making smart decisions. When do you see people making smart decisions? Give us some examples, and then the opposite of that, when you've seen people making not so good decisions, and what have you done to address it with them?
I think it starts with some small decisions that you make, and then obviously those lead to a little bit bigger ones, like how do I feel today? Am I in the right state of mind to be flying? Am I in the physical, best shape to be flying today? Should I even fly? And then obviously the big decision of, am I going to fly? Why am I flying? Stuff like that. Making bad decisions, the most common one I think is probably just flying when you shouldn't be flying. Picking, a day where you think it's okay and going versus a day when it's going to be awesome. That's probably the biggest one that I do see people make.
What about in-flight decisions or new decisions?
For new students?
Yeah.
Maybe just stepping outside of their comfort zone and trying to do something a little extra. Like when you're a student, I think it's so amazing that we get to do this, that you should be able to just chill out for a little while and develop some skills and enjoy the act of being in the air, flying around, checking out the scenery. Everybody's got a different mission. But if you could just kind of take it in and not try to push it and do something that maybe somebody else is doing, or you think I got to do that cool move. We like to say that, we don't decide who's the best pilot by who's doing the most awesome stunts.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we do, that decision is based on who's making the fewest mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you're going to find out who's the good pilot, who's making, no mistakes. Who do you see just nail it every time flawlessly, and never have any trouble? Those are the good pilots. I've seen a lot of people struggle on the ground and do things that you would think someone with adequate training wouldn't do, and then get into the air and be like the wing over king, So there's something to be said for making good decisions on what you learn and what level you're at before you go to the next level.
Now, from what I've seen, you already have equipment. The guys practice on it. Sometimes they'll purchase the equipment that they're practicing with, correct?
We don't sell the gear that we have at the school for the school gear until the very end of the season, when we're kind of done for the year. We've shut down. Then we'll sell off the used stuff, and then upgrade for the next season.
Okay. I think Kate had a question she wanted to ask in regards to the gear.
I actually have a couple of questions on my mind. So one question that David isn't a huge fan of. I'm curious to know what your gear preference is. I know you've flown pretty decent handful of different wings, probably different motors. What's your preference? Why? And what do you fly currently?
So I love them all this day and age. Like I started 6 years ago on a Blackhawk 125 and a Paratoys Momentum 28 meter glider, and it sucked. Like just in general, as far as compared to today's stuff, it was not so awesome. Yeah, I've flown a wide variety of stuff. I currently fly a Maverick with the Moster, is my personal preference. And 18 meter carve, Gen carve. It depends. I like different missions. You know, you have to have a couple gliders. I like something slow, like a Pegasus 2 or Vantage 2, or maybe even a Falcon. Not slow, but something that you can just cruise around on and have a low and slow kind of day, and then something for, you know, like
a little bit less active. Yeah. So leading to my next question was, you mentioned earlier about making, observing your students, watching them make good decisions versus bad decisions. What's your stop point? When do you make the call for yourself? You've been flying for quite a long time. When is it, how many strikes until you're out, until you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't fly today?
Like if I catch myself doing something I wouldn't normally do, maybe, there's a few different ways that I kind of try to gauge that or to keep myself in check. Weather is obviously a big factor. If I'm not feeling it, or I feel like it might be a little more of a rowdier day or the type of flight that I don't want to have, then I just avoid it. There's also the fun meter. If you like peg out the fun meter for a really long time, you should just let off the gas for a minute and coast, like chill out, because sometimes we used to call it the red mist in racing motorcycles, where you kind of lose track of what's going on and you get so caught up in the moment that you just want to go faster and harder. And if I feel that kind of taking over, then I pump the brakes a little bit, back off the throttle and go, okay, yeah, you're going a little too hard right now, buddy. Like you should just chill out.
So are you constantly checking yourself? Are you constantly second guessing what you're not second guessing, but just making sure that you are where you need to be in order to do that? Or do you just wait until it?
No, I mean, I try to be ahead of it. Just like, it's like kiting a glider. You don't want it to lead you, where it wants to go. You want to go where you want to go from the beginning. So, but it's like a constant thing. It's just like being a new pilot, You don't want to be flying around thinking, what if the motor dies? What would I do right now? Okay, I still have my 2 spots in sight. Still got a game plan. I have a backup plan, And then obviously knowing with great risk comes great reward, as well as, potential for great catastrophic failure and damage to yourself and equipment. So you have to kind of weigh that and be like, am I pushing it too hard right now? Like, is it even worth it? Why am I doing this?
Jeff Gowen would say no risk, no reward, and no risk, there's no reward.
It's kind of true,
Yeah, that's right. But you got to watch out too, because that risk versus reward will catch up with you at some point, and we all know. Yeah.
It's good to just continue to double check yourself and make hold yourself accountable, so to speak.
Yeah, I was risky when I first started flying paramotors. I came straight from sport bikes, and I was used to going fast and dragging my body parts on the ground and bumping against other people for first place. Just for this whatever it was. Honestly, it was just stories at the end of the day to tell your buddies. But it was worth it. The risk was worth it at the time. And now looking back, it's like, I probably wouldn't do that again at least not at that level for fun. Because I have something that's way more fun with way less risk.
Do you still ride?
I ride dirt bikes, like trail ride. Like a little slower than I used to, not sport bikes on the street or anything like that.
Saying you're getting older, huh?
I'm getting smarter.
There you go.
So
you normally hobby hop, so to speak? What as far as adventurous, how is it built up? Because riding sport bikes is pretty adventurous.
Yeah, like I used to everything lasted for a little while. But it always got to a point where, sport bikes were great. It was more of a I'm spending a lot of money to go what some people consider relatively fast, but it wasn't worth it at the end of the day. Like I had a bad racing addiction. Like I would go to the racetrack and come home and my power would be turned off because I just spent all my money racing, and that was all I cared about at the time. So now I'm trying to kind of be better about that kind of thing.
Very cool. I totally unrelated to paramotoring. I'm looking to get into sport bikes, but I'm trying to take my time so it doesn't get too, because I'm very much so a need for speed person, and the last thing I want to do is hurt myself. So
Right.
Because I don't want to do anything that's going to keep me from flying. And so until I learn how to, I mean, it's like you would for training for a paramotor. It's like I kind of want to take the right steps so I don't get hurt. That's an awesome picture, by the way.
Thanks.
So one of the question that keeps coming up over and over in the chat is JP Tulo. Are you going to give up on him soon? It seems like he just doesn't get it.
That guy's awesome. He's a good dude.
He says he loved training with you. Linda, thank you so much for the donation to the show. We really appreciate it. Linda Anderson, you're awesome. Dave,
Linda rocks. Awesome, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. I did see that. I was going to give you a shout out, but Dave got to it first.
Dave, Trike Flyer, did you have a question from the chat? Okay, there's a question from the chat here. I thought you were going to ask it. So I don't know who this comes from.
Hey, Dave, back to you.
I believe it was Jim CR.
Jim CR. There are so many instructors out there. How does a newbie, Jim CR, who has already signed up at Aviator, wants to know, how does a newbie discern between good instructors and those that maybe should be avoided? It's a good question. What's your opinion on what makes a good instructor versus one that should be avoided?
I mean, I would just basically what I would give my advice is to go to the school that you're planning on training with, talk to the people there, hang out with the people there, talk to their students that are there that day, talk to the students they've had in the past. The students are going to be your best bet, honestly, because it may be their opinion's a little biased, but most times they're going to give you, their experience, what they had, good or bad, and just get as much of that as you can, and you'll figure it out.
Okay.
And there's a school for everybody. I mean, everybody doesn't necessarily need this school or that school. We highly recommend our students interview us and interview any other school that they're considering. We require everyone to come for an interview, interviewing us interviewing them, as well as, not as well as, I guess, if they're unable to come for an interview, we try to have an extensive conversation over the phone, maybe even more than once, just to kind of get a feel for where they're at, if they're like-minded as far as learning new things, things of that nature. So that may be where we differ just a little bit. It's not like anyone can sign up on the website and say, I'm coming to your class. It's come see if you fit in with the crew kind of thing. And if we vibe with you and it's all great, then sure, let's go after it. And if not, then, maybe I can direct you to someone else who might be better suited to help you out. But most of the times it all goes well, and we, have a good time with everybody. But it is a team, so we try to keep our team all in good spirits. Everybody gets along with each other, kind of thing, and it just makes everything go smoother for the instructor as well as the student.
So I imagine you usually have a pretty positive outcome. How often do you run by someone who doesn't click on this, who it doesn't feel comfortable or isn't as, who doesn't match up? Or is it really pretty, or is it normally, you seem like the kind of person you get along with really, really well. So I don't imagine you come across many people who are like, oh, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it happens, but there's always someone who's just more drawn to some other particular style or whatever that is, whatever they think is going to be the training that they're going to enjoy the most, and sometimes that's not us.
Right.
Most of the times it is.
It's important for the student to feel comfortable with their instructor or where they're training.
Sure.
Everything between location and everything involved, because that right there will navigate on how their training will go if they are comfortable. Because if they're not, they're going to be hesitant. It's going to put them in kind of a tough situation. It's gonna close off their mind a little bit. They'll find it a little bit more difficult to learn what they need to learn if they're not comfortable. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it just makes it smoother for everyone. Like, just for instance, so hopefully things go as planned next month. We start our class. Andrew's going to be in our class, our guy from Resurgence PPG. And for that particular class, I've kind of picked the people that I want around for that class. So we have a couple former students that are former military and active military that are going to come kind of be, you know, our para butlers, if you will, and help lay out wings and just be a part of the crew. You know, we have all our former students are always kind of hanging out at the field. They're always anxious to help each other out. That's why our team works so well together. It's kind of because of those guys, honestly.
Chris, I'm looking at my text messages. You may have thought you texted me to be there, but I'm not seeing it in here. So I'm assuming that you forgot to just send me that text message.
I got the message. I got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dave, he sent it to me.
Yeah, sorry, man. You might be the only one. But yeah, so we have some of those former military guys come in to be a part of the team because they're all on the same wavelength. You know, I can yell their last name at all of them and they'll respond like on the same level versus, you know, one guy being like, "What? I don't work like that."
That would be me. I would be that guy.
So we would have you wait till June to come. Because June we have hopefully a 14-year-old girl come in to train with her dad and maybe someone else. Not that you have to be in a class with all women if you were going to take a class, but that may be a more comfortable environment for you. You know?
I think Ron Saran just trained a kid who was like 12 years old or something like that.
That's awesome.
Really young, but he said that he did a great job. And, you know, of course, no one in the right mind is going to train somebody who's not fit for the sport. So
right. I get that question.
The fact that he was and he's so young, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I just had someone message me. Actually, it was the guy with the 14-year-old. He was like, what's the requirements? Like, can she do this? And I was like, if she's physically capable and mentally capable, you know, there's nothing that really says that she can't do it. So hopefully
hey, Dave. Dave, I have a question now.
Go ahead.
This comes from Mark P. Chris, do you believe that there's a minimum skill and exam for all PPG pilots? And two, a screen's messing up.
It's English.
There's no requirements.
It's in English, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? Where's the mute button?
Dave actually had a bad thunderstorm out where he's at, and as you can see, Rick has palm trees and a lot of wind out by him. So I'm sorry for you guys.
Yeah, it's nice. It's pretty nice here. It's all right.
You got it, Dave?
Yeah, actually, we took a close lightning hit, and my screen is actually, I think I fried my monitor. Right. Does no requirements at all put the sport PPG at risk for all, looks like FAR 103 aviation?
All right. Did you understand the question there, Chris?
Do you want to give it back to me in English, Dave?
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely, I can do that.
No, I meant the other Dave. I thought he would translate it for you, Trek Flyer. Sorry.
You know, Chris, I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me off the hook.
Do you believe there should be a minimum skills test or exam for all PPG pilots? That's the first question. The second question, does no require? What the hell did you write here?
Apparently, we need to have a minimum skills test.
Yeah. See.
Okay. Oh, does not have. I think it's supposed to say does not having requirements at all put the sport of PPG at risk for all FAR 103 aviation?
I mean, I think so. I hate to say it because I was that guy when I first started out. I was like, you know, I'm just going to do this. I've got general aviation experience. I'll be fine. But I didn't know all the stuff that I probably should have the first time I put a paramotor on and took off. Was I putting the sport at risk? I was definitely putting myself at risk, like 100%. Some of the things I was doing probably could have put the sport at risk. You know, there could have been a bad news story if one of the things I'd have done had gone wrong. And it was mostly because I didn't know, just lack of information. I really didn't. It was just all open to me. I was like, dude, the world is my oyster. I have a paramotor. No one can stop me. Like, I'm going to go crazy.
That is really admirable that you can go ahead and admit this is what I used to be and this is what I learned and this is how I am now. So good for you. Good for you.
We all start somewhere, man. And that was my path. Like, I didn't know. I was the perfect example of I didn't know what I didn't know. But as soon as I started catching on and figuring out, I was like, oh man, there's a whole lot to this, and I can have a lot more fun and be a lot safer than what I'm doing right now.
I think that probably makes some of the best pilots in the world is when you can look back and say, hey, I made these mistakes. This is how I'm going to fix it. And then transpose that to other people saying, hey, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do, but learn, follow.
Yeah. I've taken huge steps to like progress from that and be way further than where I started off. You know, I started off pushing off of local dams after the park ranger left because I knew he was coming back in 20 minutes. And I was like, dude, I'm going to get a flight in. And that was my sneaking a flight in, you know, that was where I started at. So, and then from there to, I'm a P3, you know, from Chris Santa Croce Point of the Mountain. I never thought I'd be there or get that far, but, you know, I made it my goal when I realized where I was and what I was doing and how it could potentially affect the thing that I love, being paramotor. And I was like, dude, you got to just be better.
Yeah, but you kind of, that's like the Darwin theory. You kind of got to survive that to get where you're at today.
I totally got lucky.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So, there's I'm going to try to say this carefully because I don't want to offend anybody that may be watching that we fly with occasionally. There's a bridge, and Dave has seen this bridge, and Dave is dying for me to fly under this bridge with him called the Jeremiah Oro Bridge. I believe you have flown under it, correct?
That's correct.
So,
it's happening, sweetheart.
Don't ever call me sweetheart again.
Okay, sweetheart.
Anyway, how do you feel about people flying under a bridge like this? This is a huge bridge. Maybe you can go ahead and describe it, and how do you feel about that?
It's a big bridge. I don't have like accurate dimensions to tell you how high it is off of the ground and how much room there is there. At the time I flew under it, it was under construction, and there was a parking lot. It was a dirt lot that they had built underneath the bridge for the construction equipment that they were using to build, obviously. So I flew it hoping that that would be my out. I haven't seen it lately or been over there, but I'm pretty sure that if that's not there still, there's like one out and it's in the water. And if you have an engine out, you're going in the trees or water, you have to pick which one. It's not like just flying under a bridge going, it's going to be cool. If the engine dies, I'll land on this bank. Like there's no bank. You're going in the water. Like I flew under it knowing that there was one out and I had to hit it. Maybe not one of the best decisions I ever made. But being a local, I was like, dude, I got to fly under that bridge.
All right. But as far as the legality of it, Part 103 doesn't rule out flying underneath the bridge at any point. It should be legal, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's two parts to it.
Versus reward.
There's two parts for flying under this bridge for me. One is the safety of it for me, and I'm not sure what kind of winds are changing or activities are going on underneath that bridge. Okay. Number two, this is a very, very tall bridge. This is a bridge when I even drive across it, I kind of pucker a little bit because it's very, very high off the ground. Okay. And there's been a lot of suicides off of this bridge. It's that high off the ground. So is it worth flying underneath it, popping up on the other side and scaring a car where they turn their head and take their eyes off the road for a moment? That's the other part I have a problem with. But Dave, you do whatever the hell you want to do, buddy.
We did it in calm conditions with no one around on a pretty chill day, but it was me and one other person on intercom the whole time, kind of flying side by side with a game plan. Like if I go down, don't try to land anywhere nearby, you know. We had plans and backup plans, but that doesn't, you know, justify doing it or make it any better. It's going to be all right just because you had a plan, you know.
Yeah.
You know the risk. If you're willing to take it, that's on you. Like I said, I suggest my students and other people, you know, weigh the risk and know if it's actually worth it and actually be aware of what could happen. Because sometimes we get ourselves into situations not thinking about what could maybe happen as far as the repercussions, but maybe thinking like, oh man, but how cool would it look for this video that I'm making?
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's not one I want to take I've already flown into one tree and have it on video. I don't need to do it again.
I'm sure you can count a few bad decisions that you made that day.
I can't count that many decisions.
That was good. Thank you for doing that, though. I appreciate that. That lives in my video vault forever. I'd love it. Thank you for that.
Mute him. All right. This is a great question here from a gentleman that is fresh off of his trip to Palm Bay, Florida. Slow Days said, this is a great question. Because we talked about requirements of students leaving. By the way, I did want to ask you too, whenever your students leave your training, are they then PPG2 certified?
Yeah, unless they plan on coming back anytime soon. I mean, they all can leave and come back until they feel like they're there. You know, we don't take the test until they're actually ready and they think they're going to pass it. But yeah, they all are pretty skilled. If you see them at a fly-in, they're probably the guy looking like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, let me give some props to JP Tulo, dude. We were down there in Florida. He showed up and he nailed every launch. He nailed every landing. You know, he made it look like he'd done it before. And we knew that the game plan was not to show off any new tricks that we thought we were going to figure out that weekend, but just to look good going up and coming back down. And he did it. So, you know, bravo to him.
You are a USPPA certified instructor. The question from Slow Days is, should the requirements be placed on instructors instead? Should all instructors be certified?
I mean, why not? Doesn't hurt. Like, what's it? For me, I spent some time, you know, instructing not as a certified instructor. And I was just like, if there's more to learn, why wouldn't I learn it? It's the same way I went with the general aviation. When I first started with that, I just thought, I just need to know enough to fly my little plane. I need a light sport certificate. And then I learned more and was like, wait, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I could learn. Why not learn all that too? It's a part of it. So yeah, learn as much as you possibly can. It's going to make you better. Like, why do you not want to be better? That makes you safer.
As long as you're not on information overload, because that can almost mess you up a little bit more.
Yeah, take it in
As long as
steps.
you're able to absorb the information and obtain it, then absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know that, like, I took mine, I passed mine, and it was like slightly overstimulating a little bit. But
It's a bit much. Dave will tell you. It's overloading. It's some stuff that you're like, wait, is this a trick question? When did I learn this?
It seems a lot of them seem like they are, and
They're tricky. It's for
the
sure
thing
tricky.
is, when you're so new to the sport, it's like you look at that test and you think, oh crap.
I think the benefit of the test is that it does put you a little out of your element and make you dig up and research some things that maybe you didn't even think about before. And then you're like, oh, wow, there's a whole nother thing that I know now.
How many
Yeah.
times did I take that test?
How many times what?
I was asking Chris, how many times did I have to
You,
take the test?
6.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Shut up, Kate.
That's like enough times to memorize all the questions and
I
answers.
know.
in the entire
Well,
question
they
queue.
interchange, I
Is
think.
that
But
kind of cheating
yeah.
at that point?
I was ready to call Jeff Goyne and say, all right, dude, you're answering these questions for me because I don't know where you're going here.
No, you got to earn your PPG too.
Well,
it's hard, dude.
No, you know what? Point in case. Dave is a point in case, because when there's information overload, you start like way overthinking each individual questions. And really, if you look at it from afar, they're simple. They're very easy to answer.
Some of them, the PPG-1 stuff is simple. Like, I tried to preface it with, you have to kind of back up your brain a little bit and think that you're a brand new student, or it's confusing, honestly.
yeah.
Even for a brand new student, it can be really confusing. I mean,
For sure.
it's I don't do well with tests anyways. So thanks to being homeschooled, I never had to take, time tests, or I never had to sit in a classroom where I had like a bunch of people watching me saying, okay, you have to have this many done and this amount of, so when I don't do well with tests regardless. So
Hey, I want to thank John Steele for donating $5 to the show. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. And he also had a question here. He says, I am shopping around for a reserve this year. What would you have for reserve products? And also, would you recommend steerable or non-steerable?
Good question. I like all the products from Superfly paragliding. A little shout out to Superfly. But I like that square round that they have. The companion square round is pretty nice. Easy to use. It's not overcomplicated. Steerable or non-steerable, lots of different opinions on that one. I think that if you throw it, if you're in a situation bad enough that you throw your reserve, if it comes out and opens, you're going to be happy with that reserve.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that throwing now with the steerable could maybe not always open up perfectly, and maybe a little trickier. You might have to finagle it a little bit to get it where you want it. So for beginners, I would maybe say just go with simplicity, something is going to work, that you can just get a pretty decent toss and kind of count on it. and hope you don't need it, and be happy to throw it. If you think for like a minute that you need to throw your reserve, then you should probably throw your reserve. Like, there's going to be some people on the ground that say, hey, you're a dummy, you shouldn't have thrown your reserve. But guess what? You're on the ground having a conversation with some asshole who's telling you shouldn't have thrown your reserve, and that's awesome.
So that leads to a good question. How, especially for a new pilot, how would you, if you're in the air and if you're, bump tolerance, for example, if it's not totally built up and you feel a bump and you're like, oh crap, I got to throw my reserve. Do you throw it and risk more damage done, or do you analyze what's happening and attempt to fix the situation first?
I would go with B. We recommend, obviously, just analyzing the situation a little bit. Bump tolerance is gonna, vary with each individual and what you got going on. But as a beginner, hopefully you're not flying in anything that's too rowdy that's actually gonna be a cause or a reason that you need to throw a reserve. Hopefully it's like wingtip collapses and it kind of makes your heart feel kind of funny, and you look at it and it's gone and you're like, okay, I don't know what that was, but I should probably just not fly because now I feel some type of wet.
So, even if you're flying in perfect conditions, just as well as everyone else, weather can get splotchy really, really fast,
right.
Even if it's not predicted. So let's say you're flying and you have a 40% collapse and you're not used to that. That's never happened. David can vouch for that. It's like, but David's been flying long enough. You just had your first one, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yep, Chris was there.
And but you don't know how to react in that situation. So you do think, let me throw my reserve instead of learning to, instead of adapting, saying, hey, let me fly the part of the wing that's still flying and attempt to fix the part that's not.
Can I interject real quick? Altitude, wouldn't that be an equation?
Sure. It's always, I was going to say, it's always going to be relative, to conditions and what's actually going on. I would like to see someone try to evaluate the situation for at least a few seconds to determine, is this an actual reserve ride situation? If you went out and with the intent of doing big stuff, then you're obviously kind of planning on that might be a thing. But like you're saying in this situation where you're just cruising along, life's good, and now all of a sudden you're getting rocked. Fly the glider. Just fly the glider until you're like, dude, what I'm doing is not working, and now it's time for a reserve ride.
Okay, so that answered my question.
But low altitude is
it might be a whole nother conversation, but there's only so much that can be covered in 7 or 10 or 14 days or whatever you have in training, and reserve. Some of them cover it, some of them don't, but that's something a little bit more advanced, I guess.
A little bit. We're not flying around with reserves as students, obviously, and it's after training where we recommend that you kind of do your self-study, or you figure out which reserve you might like, and we help with that. And then obviously how to throw it too is a big part of it. It's cool to have it, but if you don't know how to throw it, it's just maybe another liability.
Should be a part of it, yeah.
Have you done any sort of training of how to throw the reserve?
Yeah, we cover, the basics of how you want to go about throwing your reserve, looking for the clean air and how to get it out and toss it.
Kate?
I was just going to say, what's your opinion on carrying 2 reserves? Because I know some people it's a conflicting opinion on carrying 1 or carrying 2. Some say that if you carry 2, it's more important because the first reserve's no good. You might as well have a second. What's your opinion on that? Is that something you suggest, or?
Yeah, it's up to each individual. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel a little bit better when you fly? Because if it does, go for it. It's just an extra piece of insurance. Do you love yourself a whole bunch and think you're worth an extra reserve just in case things go bad? Do you have a mission of like, I'm going to go try new stuff today? Because if that's your mission, then you might want a couple of them.
Have a secondary.
Sure. Why not?
I think this subject itself really speaks to the lack of maturity or age of the sport itself. I'm not talking individuals. I'm talking just the sport itself. We haven't developed the depth of knowledge of pilots that have actually experienced true reserve throws. And I say this because I'm friends with Johnson Q and Matt Woodworth Woody. And those 2 guys, they have actual, what we call jokingly, combat throws, where it wasn't in an SIV. It was out flying in regular conditions, and they had situations where they had to go to the reserve. And for each of them, it's been multiple times. And, you start talking to people in the community, it's like, how many people out there have 3 reserve rides? that population amongst us is so small that the knowledge base for reserves is basically based off of, you know, a belief or what we read or what we learned from another instructor. And so as people are going through this process, if you really want to learn about reserves and you want to answer these questions, I would seek out Johnson Q and Matt Woodworth and, you know, pick their brain and figure out what is the right answer and what do they recommend, because they're some of the most experienced guys riding reserves in our community.
Real world experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
Todd, thanks for saying that too. And we interviewed Woody about a month and a half ago, and it was a great episode to go back into the Our Paramotor Nation website, click on previous episodes, and click on that episode to watch. And we, you know, asked him point blank, you know, when is it too late to throw it? And, you know, he talked about, you know, try to get that thing, but don't spend too much time on it. Like Chris is saying here, you know, for me in my situation, it was a tip collapse, and I was leaning to the inflated side, and I realized that I didn't have anything that I was pulling against. And then slowly, as I was leaning back, it inflated within about a second or two, and I kept flying. It was okay. But, you know, Woody talking about how quickly he said, yeah, it's time to throw it. It's a great episode to go back and learn. All of these episodes are great to go back and learn things from. This episode as well. So please use that website as a tool of information to learn from, especially if you're new and just coming into the sport. We're almost at the 90-minute mark, and I want to keep going here. And if you put a question in, I want to try to get it answered by Chris, and we still have this wheel to spin here too. Also, thanks to Dave Ruff, who's been putting everybody's name that's in the chat right now into next week's drawing as well. Here's a question from Mark P. If standard testing should be required, what should we base them on? How far do we go? What do you recommend for the path forward?
As far as students or instructors, I guess. As far as students, I mean, I think the US PPA syllabus does a pretty good job of covering what you should know as a PPG2 pilot before you're out flying around on your own. And then the PPG3 stuff as well, if you wanted to take it that far. As far as instructors, I think instructors should get as much knowledge as possible. They should interact with lots of other instructors. Go and see what they're doing different that's good or maybe not as good. Picking up gold nuggets is what a guy told me. He's like, you know, you get out there and you pick up all those gold nuggets, and eventually you turn those into gold bars, and then one day you have a Fort Knox of awesome information to draw on, and you know, that's the goal anyway. That's the plan. So I think that's what instructors, in my opinion, should strive for. I mean, when I'm out on the mountain with the big guys or the old guys, I guess, whatever you want to call them, the people who've been around and know what they're doing, when they're talking, I'm just kind of trying to be quiet and pick up any little thing that they say that's something that I've never heard before that I can use and, you know, hand off to someone else.
Amazing that you just said that, because last week I had people ask me, why are you so quiet during the show? And I was just listening. It's not always the time to talk. It's just a time to listen and gain more knowledge.
Always a student.
Yeah. I love this next question. This is from Yankee Paramotor, Todd Falstad. You ready for this, Chris?
I don't know. What do you got?
Listen to the word. I dread asking the question. Well, what brand helmet does Chris wear? Ayo.
So I'm currently rocking the Solar X, the Icaro Solar X, although I've kind of been eyeballing Nuvolo. I like the black one with the black, and I like the black one with the red. So I'm on the fence. I'm actually thinking about buying a new reserve and a new helmet soon. So
I love my Nuvolo helmet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It is the bomb. Especially because I'm not inclined to make my own, and it has everything that I need. So
right. Yeah,
maybe I'm a little biased, but.
Hey, have you ever had to throw your reserve either for a SIV course or real life situation, or just for practice?
Just practice in my case. I would like to throw on in a maneuvers. I just haven't made it that far. In the particular, I did a maneuvers with Chris and we didn't get there, but yeah. And then as far as real life situation, I hope I don't have to throw one, but you know, there's a certain point where you know you're risking it. You might have to toss it.
The question from Shane, never trust a skinny chef. Shane, I'm going to answer it after you answer it. How would you recommend learning muscle memory in regards to throwing a reserve?
Figure out the proper way to throw it and do it in your brain all the time. Do it in just when you're flying, go through the motions of it, get up, reach, go through every single motion that you would go through. Do it over and over and over. If you have a way to hang a harness, hang your harness, sit in it and reach until as soon as you think about it, your hand is on the handle and you're ready to pull. You constantly know where it is. It's just repetition. It's the same way you build muscle memory with anything. You do it a billion times.
So Shane, I'm going to answer the question for me. There's a product that I went to Larry DeChico and Chris DeChico with, and it's a simulator reserve. And we talked about it on the show. And I believe it's only $62 on paraorange.com. Chris, if you would like, I'll let you borrow mine and see if you like it and maybe work with it with some students if you want, and you're more than welcome to. But it's great. And PPG Gorilla, what's wrong? Oh, PPG Gorilla got to practice with that reserve at the fly-in in a thunderstorm, actually. That was a fun video to watch. And we will be putting together a video on the reserve and how to use it, that simulator, for people to practice with it. But yes, just to Chris's point, muscle memory on every single flight, at least twice. I touch my knee, I pull my hand up, I feel it, and then obviously I don't grab it, but I go through the motion of what I would do in case of an emergency, at least twice. This comes from my buddy, Greg Anthony Harris. Do you insist on reserve shoots for students doing their first flights?
No, we're generally only flying around the pattern in the best air possible. We're not going up very high for the most part. And as I say, the weather's going to be ideal. It's going to be, hopefully, we hope it's like one of their hardest launches ever. There's zero wind and they really got to run to get it up in the air and have, awesome, super glassy first experience.
All right. Any other questions from our panel, Kate?
Yeah, so you just mentioned you don't recommend a reserve for the first flight, which I totally respect. But you also mentioned that you don't go very high. What's your limit? And what do you think about altitude being your friend?
Well, yeah, like 300 to 500 feet. I guess that's probably maybe not what you would think when I say not very high. Altitude is the key to everything we do. Stay a few mistakes high if you plan on maybe making some mistakes, and the further away you are from the ground, the more time you have to figure things out. But as far as students, 500 feet around the pattern. Sorry, go ahead. No,
you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's about it. Not that a reserve wouldn't work from 500 feet, but mostly just the fact that there probably is a better risk of them accidentally deploying it than using it properly or even needing it as a, first time solo experience.
So what would you consider altitude wise? How many feet counts as a mistake?
Oh, it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're just
as a new pilot, like I'm going up on my first flight, what are, or does that just depend on?
Yeah, like first flight out of training where you're just like kind of doing your thing. I like at least like 1,200 feet sounds good to me. Gives me plenty of time to make a good decision on where I'm going to land and, maybe my little pre-flight checklist of where my trim's at and what's the game plan here. I think it's decent. As far as like a minimum, I mean, if you're happy and you like to go high, fly around 3,000 feet. It's even better.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Chris, I got a question. I'm about in like this quarantine. I'm about 10 days in without a haircut. How long do you think until I can get some dreadlocks going like that? I'm like 10 days so far. How long did it take you?
To get them, oh man, if you start with a little longer hair, it's probably easier. I would say give yourself, I don't know, a year. Damn. And then you can maybe get started. It's going to be a long process though, but I'm not going to lead you on.
Listen, I attempted to give myself a dread, 2 of them. I did them both myself. I took a chunk of hair, it was like that big. I'm not kidding. And it turned it into a dread that was like this big.
One's better than none, I guess.
I had like a week until my sister saw it and she goes, "Oh, honey, do you want me to help you take it out?" And I was like, "You don't like it on me?" I like dreads a lot, actually. I've always liked dreads. How long have you had yours?
Uh,
2 days.
at least 3 months. No, 18 years or so.
I'm starting mine now.
Yeah.
The diet and the dreadlock starts at the same time.
Dude, I'm stoked. You're gonna be like shredded. You're gonna be the shredded dread.
In 2 years, I'm gonna look like Chris Holbert.
Dude, that's not a goal you should set for yourself, buddy.
Maybe fly like this.
We love you, bro.
So there's a question for Todd, Kate, Dave, and Rick from Keith Smith. Do you believe all instructors should offer ratings such as PPG-1 and PPG-2?
Okay, I'll jump in since everybody's quiet. I'll go back to what Chris said, and this kind of goes back to my experience of traveling around, seeing different instructors. It's more on when is that student ready, or when is that pilot ready to take the exam and meet those requirements. It's not something that a course should provide and say, hey, on day 7, you're taking the PPG-2 test. It shouldn't be, hard written in stone in their syllabus that day 7 is test day for the written exam, because you might not be ready. So, going back to what Chris says, I completely agree with him that, if a student needs to leave training and work on, some of the tasks and come back and take the exam when he's ready, that's when it should happen. But it shouldn't be part of the standard syllabus. But I would expect instructors to provide that when that student or when that pilot is ready later on down the road.
If I remember,
I agree with you, Todd. But my instructor was a PPG or USPPA instructor, and I left there without a rating because I just wasn't happy with what I was getting, and I went on my own. And you got guys like Kyle O'Glee that are great instructors, not necessarily worried about ratings and stuff. So I feel it. I see it on both sides. So I don't know. I think that we should be regulated, and the USPPA is a great organization, but there needs to be some middle ground somewhere, I think.
Kate Bowen, Aviator PPG. Do students leave at the end of their training with a PPG-2 rating?
So we offer the PPG-2 rating. We usually sit down. Our instructors help them out with it. Typically, yes. To be honest with you, I'm not a huge part of that side of things, so I don't know how they do it 100%. But yes, I mean, I got mine, but kind of like what Todd said, it's like I got mine when I was ready to get mine, because I'm not going back to information overload. If it's not, if you're not ready for it, then you're not ready for it. So you keep working towards it, and you keep grasping what you can, but it's something, it's hard to do by yourself. So it's like if you go through class and you expect to kind of do it on your own, kind of like what Gorilla said, it's
daunting.
A little bit. It's nice to have a hand with it. So I personally, I think every school should have the ability to give it to you if you want it. But I don't know. I feel like I can't really speak on that side of it because I don't come from an instructor's perspective, I guess. And so it's hard. I feel like I can't just be like, oh yes, for sure, or no, they can't, because I don't, I only have my own, and I know that I wasn't ready for it until I was. And so
David Wolfe, you went through the same thing. You went through training and you left without your rating and had to go back and get it later.
So yes, Kurt Pfister did not do USPPA, PPG-1 and 2 ratings. That's correct. But here's what I will tell you. I have said that rating doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. You might be able to get into some fly-ins, maybe, but for the most part, it doesn't mean anything. Here's what I did get out of this. Okay. Confidence. Maybe a little bit more confidence. That I'm more confident now knowing some things that I didn't know before Chris and I sat down and went through the test together. I'm more confident now on landing where I want to be. Now that Chris has showed me a couple things that I didn't know. So is there anything bad to come out of it? No, there's nothing bad to come out of it. So I think it's a great thing. And I agree with Rick. I believe we do need to be a little bit regulated so we can be a little bit safer and stay out of the news and avoid some unnecessary collateral damage from friends of ours. How about you, Dave Ruff? What say ye?
I personally don't have a PPG-2 or PPG-1 or anything else like that. I actually do hold a PG-3 in free flight. I think that we are probably just a few bad accidents, especially if somebody standing on the ground watching gets hurt, before we'll be full regulated. So that said, I think that all students coming out of a formal instruction need to have a course set they are able to set up in a field or wherever and make a flight, make a landing. And that the students don't need to necessarily be bothered with a PPG-2 or the USPPA or anything else like that, because the more flights they get, the requirements to get your PPG-2 or your PPG-3 will eventually come, because you're going to be getting those skill sets as you're flying and you're making good choices. And hopefully along the way, you are connecting with other instructors, with other pilots and things like that, where they're also mentoring you. I think that the paramotor community, much like the paraglider community, needs to mentor, and the instructors definitely need to be there, because as a pilot you should be learning every day and you should be expanding your knowledge.
That's the great thing. That's the great thing. Like Dave Wolfe said, I have 3 instructors already, 3 or 4 instructors, some of the best in the world, and they're always willing to share, always willing to help me out and take me under their wing and teach me, and that's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, and the question wasn't for me, but I think it should go for instructors as well. Like, we should all just meet each other, get to know each other, share the information that we have, whatever, trick or tip is working awesome for you right now. Spread that around to some other people. Let them know it's
Absolutely.
working good for you.
Absolutely.
I don't think it should be mandatory, because it's just not fair. Like, if it would have been mandatory at the time when I picked up paramotor, I might have said, yeah, that's cool, guys. Glad you have your rating, but I'm going to go find a paramotor and you can't stop me. And we need to mentor those people specifically and let them know that, like, there's a better way. It's not, this whole, like, join the cool kids club kind of thing. It's just for information, spreading information to each other and knowledge. And for me in particular, as an instructor, it's just to verify that you can do these things, and we both know that you can do those things, and we're going to feel like you're a good, just a good person to join the paramotor community. You're going to be good for all of us. You're not going to be that reckless person out there doing stuff, whether you know it's okay or not. So for me, it's just a sign off to go, yep, that's my guy. Like, I'll vouch for that dude. I know he's awesome. He does what he's supposed to be doing. He's aware of, how to make a good call, bad call, stuff like that.
I often wonder, when I first started, well, in fact, I know that when I first started and I first came home to go set up in the first field by myself, I was not ready to make correct decisions, and I could fly, but I had to take it very, very slowly, to the fact that it set me back to go ahead and seek more training, because at the time I was also doing free flight, to become where I am now. And I often wonder, 4 years later, if I were to try to take the PPG-2 test, would I pass? Or if I went to a fly-in that required PPG-2, despite my other flying experience, which a lot of it's on video, would they let you in? So I have a problem with saying you have to have this rating. I think the ratings come as the pilots progress, but they need to be smart and do so in an environment with other mentors, other instructors, et cetera, and bring everybody up. And when you see somebody doing stupid things, it's a hard call to make, but at that point you need to kind of kick back and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done that misty flip over these people because you're showing off front stage, or maybe you shouldn't have done that wingtip drag with spectators 50 yards away, because if you screw up and roll that cage, you could bowl through them and hurt those people and get us all shut down. Exactly. So
just make sure they're aware of the actual level of risk that they're imposing on themselves. And then the problem comes is when you start putting that level of risk on someone else. Like, we should all be able to go do this, and if you want to create a little danger, excitement for yourself, that's cool, but don't put it on someone else. I don't fly a tandem ride like I fly when I fly by myself. It's a totally different thing.
Look, bottom line, and I started reading the chat a little bit here. Nobody wants regulations, but we all want to be safe. No one wants to be told that you have to have a driver's license to drive a car, but we have a driver's license, so that we have shown somebody that we are able to go ahead and safely drive this automobile. And I think that's kind of the same thing as what we're saying here, is where we need to go, is just to say, yes, we're able to say. Now, that doesn't mean Joe Bob can't go buy a paramotor off the internet and go in his backyard with nothing but country land around him and go do what he wants to do. Go do what you want to do. I mean, you can go drive a car without a driver's license if you really wanted to. Same idea there.
A lot of people in Alaska that fly aircraft without a pilot's license.
It should continue to be a community regulated sport. We have to regulate and watch out for one another.
For sure.
Yep. We're going, I know there's some other questions that came in as well. And, you know, Chris, if you'll stick around for a little bit for the after show, I did put the after show code. I see a couple people are already trying to log in, and we'll admit those folks in as soon as the show ends. Everybody's welcome to join. We could keep going on and on and on, but at some point we got to go to sleep. What's that, Rick?
Tell them to get in the waiting room, wait.
Yep. You can go in the waiting room and wait. We're going to wrap up here in just a second. I do want to do the wheel, and this is going to be for the 2 prop covers. I've got 2 prop covers just like this on my Maverick Atom 80. Love them. This is from Chris DeChico and Larry DeChico. Chris is the bag lady. Did you guys know who named the bag lady the bag lady?
Who?
You guys don't know? He's in the chat right now, and we want to wish him a happy Easter to he and his wife, Erin. That's Robert Michaels came up with the name bag lady. Yeah, I just found that out this week. How about them apples? How about them bad apples?
Bad apples.
All right, I gotta figure out how to do this thing. I'm so lost. All right, we're gonna screen share here. Here's the wheel. Whoever wins, you know what to do. You can, it's probably easier if you just send me an email, paramotorcrazy@gmail.com. Can you guys see my screen?
Sure can.
Yep.
You sure can. I need a hell yeah. All right, we're gonna spin this wheel. Let's see who wins these prop covers.
Hell yeah!
Who's gonna win? Winner. This is from last.
Robin ends on something blank.
It almost landed on Robert Michaels, but it didn't. It landed on John of the Jungle. Congratulations, John of the Jungle. Woo, that's right.
Congratulations, John of the Jungle. You have won a prop cover to cover your large prop.
There you go. Whoa.
Thank you to Robert Michaels for the donation as well.
Oh, really? Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that, buddy. Awesome. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we're gonna wrap up here in just a second. Chris, Holbert, I know I've got everything on the description of how people can find out about you. Can you go ahead and you want to go ahead and share your information as well?
PredatorParamotor.com is the website. If you want to email me, it's chrisholbert@PredatorParamotor.com. Yeah, that's me.
Pretty good.
Instagram. Yeah. Predator Paramotor.
Yeah, and here's another question for you. In a normal world without COVID-19, you go to a lot of fly-ins. Which fly-ins do you tend to go to the most?
Well, I like the Salton Sea. It's a pretty epic location. I've been to that one a couple years now. Swanee was awesome. That was the first time for that one, but that's our guy Carson. Yeah. He's an awesome dude. Awesome. What else? The freaking Palm Bay was epic. Like there was so many awesome pilots there. That was like the highlight for me, was getting to hang out with, Nico and all the guys from Greece and the guy from ITV Gliders, everyone there. It was awesome. So that was an epic one. I'd like to hit foot drag this year for the first time.
Yeah.
Moonshiners, I'd like to hit that one. Bad Apples, obviously not going to happen, but that's another awesome one. They're all great. I mean, I like to check in at some of the bigger ones, especially if I have some students who are going to go participate. I like to kind of be there to hang out if it's their first fly-in or whatever. But yeah, hopefully there's going to be more as, the sport goes on. There's more and more people getting into it, more and more access to hopefully good LZs where we can, hold some events and everybody get together, because that's kind of some of the older guys in the sport that I talked to when I first started out. I was, like Kate mentioned, like a hobby jumper. Like everything was cool for a little while, and this is the first thing that I've kind of stuck with for more than 5 years. And all the guys I talked to were like, dude, it's the fly-ins. You got to keep going. I'm meeting new people, and we've been doing it for 20 years. So that's a big part of it,
Awesome. Let's see here. I want to talk about the next coming shows here that we have. I'm also trying to stretch this out because I'm having a hard time shutting the show down. I started off with internet problems, and I'm ending the
all
show
night
with internet problems. I was pretty good, like all the way through, but now like YouTube's not letting me feel it. Wonder if Thursday night Robert Michaels has the same issues. Maybe it's just on Sundays. All right.
Yeah, Kate and I don't have that problem on Wednesday nights at all.
Yeah, I know, man. I don't know. Hey, I want to thank
What is one? There's a Wednesday night show.
Uh,
I didn't know about that.
You know what, Todd Scandrett, how about talking about Resurgence? Any other information you want to give us about Resurgence?
Yeah, so obviously, given the fact that we're going through the economic downturn that we are experiencing, donations have fallen off, obviously, and I have to be very conscious about the solicitation aspect, because people are in different situations now than they were a month and a half ago. But with that being said, if you do still have the means to make donations, whether it's financial or equipment, we could definitely use it. And, if you want to make a donation, you can go to resurgenceppg.com to our donation page. You can make a donation there through PayPal. If you have some equipment, we are getting to the point that, we've got more alumni that are getting through the program that we want to try to help them out with, either a motor that is still good and still works, or a wing. If you're able to donate something like that, we can provide you a tax donation.
Trike Flyer's donated a couple of wings, I think.
Trike Flyer has, yeah, and it's been awesome because we've got a couple pilots out there right now that are flying his wings, and we really appreciate it. So, if that can happen, and I'll even drop a plug in there for Project Airtime. Some people, Resurgence PPG is focused on the military and the disabled veteran community. And some people are like, yeah, I wasn't a veteran. I really don't feel it. It's not the best thing. Where can I donate? And I say, hey, donate to Project Airtime. Send that money over to Chris and Chris Santa Croce and, Matt Minion and what they're doing over there. Cause, similar mission. And we have a similar goal set here. It's not just about, Resurgence. It's about, sharing this with as many people as we possibly can. So do what you guys can and help out where you can and give where you can. We'd really appreciate it.
It's been said so many times, but we love you, Todd.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Love you guys too.
And it's also been times this, but we'll just ignore that for right now. But we do love you, and we're happy to help you out any way we can. Next week, Shannon Michaels, such an important show. How to take care of your wing better, how to look for things in your wings. When is it time to send your wing in? Don't let anybody lay out your wing for you. Shannon's going to be joining us next week. After that, we've got Mike Canella. Mike's going to be on Dave's channel. He's a PPG instructor. And we've got some other ones lined up as well after that, but we'll save that for next week. I would never end the show without recognizing the three people that are on the show tonight that help out in so many ways. Kate Bowen, you can find her on Instagram. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram on Just Kate's Journey. I'm also on Facebook as Just Kate. As I say every time, I'm working on my YouTube. Don't hold your breath. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm trying.
PPG Gorilla. He's got a YouTube channel. What's it called?
PPG Gorilla. YouTube.com/PPG Gorilla. You know where to find me, guys.
You got one? Are you dropping one tomorrow?
No, a couple days, man. I got something coming.
All right, dropping it like it's hot.
I'm making a life change, man. Things got to change.
All right, and that's it.
Go vegetarian, bro.
We just got enough information.
Trike Flyer. He's got a couple of videos. Go ahead, Trike.
Trike Flyer, YouTube Trike Flyer, and I will be dropping a video tomorrow showing some beekeeping and flying a trike.
How about that, dude? That was sick. Looking at your
Superfly Cup.
A trike, really?
Yeah, I'm flying a trike. Black Bull on a Paracruiser frame.
I'm gonna fly that when he comes in town too.
Oh hell yeah! Yeah, I want you to fly this, and then you need to fly my Polini 250 trike.
Todd and Chris, thank you both for joining us tonight. Everybody watching, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We're going to end the show right here, and then if you wanted to join the after show, I've already put that in the chat. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, for the people that don't know, because this is more paramotor driven, but just check out Project Airtime and see what it's all about. It's like Todd said, it's similar but a little bit different. Briefly, it's just for anyone who is going through anything that's kind of holding them back or keeping them down, whether it's any kind of physical or mental disability of any kind. we just give them an opportunity to get into the air and see if it's something that they may want to chase down. And my time out there was epic. It kind of changed me and made me want to do it as much as possible. So if you can get involved with it in any way as a volunteer or just making a donation, do it. It'll make you feel good.
Awesome.
I will say this too. We've always supported Resurgence PPG. I think it's time we start putting both on our website as well and talking about both, because they're both great people, great organizations with great people running them. So we'll talk more and get that done as well. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, everybody.
Kate, Dave, Rick, thanks so much. All right, guys, we're going to end the show here. We'll get everybody that wants to come in on to the after show do so. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Love you guys. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Be well, everybody. Stay safe.
Hey, Rick. Shut up, Rick.
Are you going to make a shirt? Make a shirt. Jesus.
Keep talking, Rick. I don't know.
You're going to do something about it. Do something about it.
Hey, what do you want?
Hey, what you doing? What you doing?
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Make a shirt. If you care, make a shirt.
You got to make a